Okay, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, everyone. Hi, this is George, and I'm with Jan. Welcome to another edition of Boardroom Voices. And Boardroom Voices is actually a podcast. It's a webinar podcast, and we talk about pretty much anything that has something to do with leadership. Anything that has something to do with our with managers, with CEOs, with pretty much everything on a high level view on the top, and try to see in terms of perspectives what these best practices are. So it's actually just getting like an informal MBA, so to say, but through experience. And this is something that we'd like to help out the community with, whether you're from HR, whether you're from operations, whether you're working in a company or a startup. This is something that you might get a lot of insights from. And we're glad to have our next guest. By the way, I'm George. I'm your host for tonight. And of course, I'd like to introduce my other host, my co host, Jan Espino. Jan?
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm John Espino. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vanguard Screening Solutions and also Vanguard Workforce Mobility. And we are glad to have our special guest tonight, Miss Courtney Bissett from iSupport Worldwide. Hi, Courtney.
Hello, thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Courtney. We really appreciate you being our guest. You know what? I won't cut to the chase, Courtney. I've known you for like 2 years, and I pretty much follow you in your LinkedIn and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure a lot of people will be definitely curious to know who Courtney Bissett is, and how you support this industry called the BPO.
Sure. Well, I don't know if a lot of people would be interested, but I'd be happy to share with you my personal journey. So first of all, if you would have asked me many years ago, at some point, will you ever relocate to the Philippines from Southern California? I probably would have said, no, I've never been there. I don't know anything about it. But about 14 years ago, I had the great experience to first come to the Philippines. And that happened in a very serendipitous way. So I actually have a very unique career trajectory. I started in the field of corporate marketing. So I worked as the head of marketing for several small and startup organizations. And then I transitioned into consumer goods sales for some very, very large global brands. I worked for Playboy, I worked for Rockaware, I worked for Disney, and many others that were out there. And then my third sort of incarnation of my existence in this world came in the form of operations, where I moved to the Philippines and began this amazing journey, which has now been almost 14 years, if you can believe that much time has passed, as an operations specialist in the BPO world. So I've been here in the Philippines on and off for that long, but primarily on, and I could not have been more thrilled to have made that decision. I've worked with multiple organizations throughout the country, some very, very large, some startups. And currently, I have the amazing honor and distinction to be the president of iSupport Worldwide. And I have been so for just about a year now, and it's an absolute astonishing journey, even through all of the challenges that we've gone through. And I'm excited to talk to you tonight about whatever questions you might have about how that happened and what we did over the past year, and how others might be able to benefit from some of the trials and tribulations we've gone through.
Yeah, Courtney, I'm just curious. You mentioned that you're with iSupport for about a year now. So you must have switched to that role during the height of the pandemic, right? So how was that different from your other moves or transitions previously?
Right. So just prior to moving to iSupport, I was the chief operating officer of another organization, which I was very pleased to be with. And I actually handled the full transition on March 15th for that organization when we went to absolute stop and lockdown in the country, right?
Yeah.
I was transitioning. I was still making my notice period during that time, but I took that head on and made sure that hundreds of employees successfully transitioned to home and were safe and taken care of, and made sure that that happened before I moved over to another organization. So it's very interesting because I have a unique perspective that I worked amongst two different and separate and unique organizations during the same very difficult time period. So I think that we repeated many of the strategies that worked and were consistent with the first deployment, if you will, of the emergency response mechanisms. It has been a very unique time. There's no global pandemic playbook that I know of, since the last one was many years ago, but we worked very hard, and I think we've had great success during this time period.
Yeah. So just basing on my experience, for example, I've been working with a couple of key employees in Vanguard who I actually haven't met in person, which is a first for me, and I think for most people. So, but thinking what you've gone through last year, you actually moved to an entirely new company during the pandemic. So, have you had a chance to meet most of your team members in person?
So absolutely not. I like to tell people that I landed a plane with an engine on fire, and then we put the fire out, rebuilt the plane, and launched again from my living room. It has been absolutely extraordinary. But, I've had experiences in the past. So when I was a leader of consumer goods sales, I had global teams working for me. So I've had extensive and long-term experience managing remote teams. And also, I've worked with customers throughout the world. So oftentimes, and for a long time now, the only relationship mechanisms that I had, and I'm so old that at one point it was just the telephone, right? But I've had the opportunity to have built foundations using those mechanisms. So I'm quite comfortable with it. And I thoroughly enjoy the process. And I think if you really work very hard to communicate and to keep that communication constant, as well as occasionally have some fun, right, with some of the team members, we do that pretty constantly, then I think it's possible to build a true foundation of trust. And I also think, and I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but I truly believe that leadership is a privilege, it's not a right. So understanding that, I've worked very, very hard to have the people that I have the privilege to serve give me the authority to be their leader, right? So that comes from trust, that comes from time, and that comes from respect. And I think it's possible to do remotely. I think it's a little bit more challenging, and you have to pay attention to the communication. But when you do, you can realize great success. And I'm very, very proud of the success we've experienced over the last year.
Yeah, Courtney, thank you so much for that. At least we have a insight already of how you do things. But just to be specific a little bit, what's your formula of leadership? How do you manage, especially, you've mentioned you love it here in the Philippines. You've been here for like a long time, and obviously there are certain quirks, there are certain differences that we have as Filipinos, and the way we interact with our global customers. How you typically manage those differences, and how you'd be able to come up with results on that one?
So, what I would say, and I've had global customers, right? So I can speak to the culture of many different folks from across the globe. What I would say is that fundamentally, I think the first tenet that we all have to recognize and realize is that there are many threads that connect us as human beings and as humanity in general, right? We're all motivated by making sure our families are taken care of, and that our basic needs are met, and that we're valued and appreciated. And those things, frankly, don't change from culture to culture. It might be the way of delivery that those things perhaps change. For example, I think here in the Philippines, we're very familial, right? So we work together as a very, very close team. I even have team members that occasionally refer to me as mother, and not in a negative way. I take that as the highest compliment possible, because, here in the Philippines, the matriarchal position is a strong one. And for me, that's a badge of honor. And we maybe wouldn't do those things as familial in the United States. However, that's the way we do the things here. And I try very hard to continue to connect to people on a very personal level. So I may be a little different than the majority of people who have the title that I have, or even some of the titles I have in the past. For example, every single manager's birthday is acknowledged. I make sure to think about their personality and who they are and get them a gift. For Valentine's Day, everyone got a heart-shaped pizza just so that they know I was thinking of them and cared about them. Christmas time, I spent 3 or 4 days baking cookies and sending them out with Bucks gift cards for all of the staff, because there is a personal touch and a personal connection that goes so very far in this culture and many others, but specifically in being successful in leading a team I haven't had a lot of real face-to-face time with. It's been vitally important to build those breakable bonds. And so those are just a few of the activities that I participate in. But more than that, I really and truly believe that communication consistency is key to building that team camaraderie and spirit. So every single day, my top line leadership and I have what we call a heartbeat session. It's just a 30-minute call where all departments report on what's happening, what help they may need, what the new experiences are, any challenges. And then I add a little bit of a touch of a motivational conversation about a way to look at things, or maybe a different perspective, or how leadership works, or I try to make it a little bit more than just that meeting every single day. And so many of my leaders have said that this is the brightest point of every day, where we get to actually come together face to face and what's going on and talk about the opportunities and talk about how we can help and support each other, and also celebrate. So we'll sing happy birthday, we'll celebrate departmental wins and things that are going on, and that communication is constant. So I think that's been a real solid cornerstone of the foundation that we've built that has led to great success.
I really love what you said, because I know that these meetings are like daily stand-ups, right? Stand-up meetings. And somehow we've been to all these kind of meetings in the past, and somehow there's a certain fear, because yes, the boss is there, anything that I've done wrong, perhaps the other day, it's a little bit of a witch hunt, I guess. But it's good that you said that you acknowledge the motivation aspect, because that is so important. Because if I were working under you, I would feel that even if I make mistakes, I know I shouldn't repeat those mistakes, but at least I know I still have a job and I'm contributing to the team. And I really like that mindset, Courtney. That motivation that you spread towards those teams.
So thank you. One thing I would like to say that's really important, and this has always been my perspective, all of us are a product of the journey that we've experienced throughout our lives and our career, right? So I think I'm a better product of some of the leaders that I've had that maybe weren't so great about things that they've done in the past than even those that motivate me and are astonishing leaders. So one thing that I actually learned from a leader in the past who was not very receptive to help and feedback was that there would never come a time when I would punish an honest mistake for which truth and accountability occurred. So I tell my team, and we have this constant conversation around it, that growth can only occur when you're going beyond your comfort zone into a place you've never traveled. And when we go into that zone, it is inevitable that we will make mistakes. So to me, mistakes are not a flaw. They are a badge of honor and proof of growth and development. And so my team is very, very aware that there will be no ramifications for a genuine mistake that you learn from, that you correct, and that you're transparent about. So even on these calls, we talk about mistakes and how to create solutions for them. We watched a video on YouTube recently that I just found so inspiring. And if I can find the link, I'll send it back to you so you can show it.
Thank
It
you.
was a video about geese. Now, this sounds like the funniest thing you've ever heard, but it spoke about how geese behave as a unit and how they fly and sort of what happens. And one important piece of that is if one goose has a challenge, it will drop down out of the formation, but geese will drop down with it to make sure it's safe and protected and taken care of. So we watched the video as a team on one of our heartbeat sessions, and now I find people saying, I feel the geese have dropped down with me, right? I'm not alone in the journey. So I think it's important to celebrate not only the things that are positive, but the growth that might have come out of something that maybe is a bit of a misstep. We are humans, every team, myself included, and I'm absolutely transparent with my team when I make a mistake, or if I need to correct a decision that I've made, I say so. So I believe that humility is a vital part of leadership. The ability to say, I'm not perfect, and I made a mistake, and let's rethink that decision or that strategy and move in a different direction. I think that brings safety to a team. And when a team has that psychological safety, they have no fear. And that's when you get the greatest growth.
Yeah, I think another benefit of having those calls, I don't know if you agree, but learning from other people's mistakes, that saying has been with me for a while already. And I think it's quite valuable, right? Would you agree?
100%. And that's the reason we do a team meeting, right? So we can talk about everything transparently. So there is nothing hidden. You know, I have an interesting story that I'd like to share about this situation. So a few years ago, I was working with a very big company, and I had a workforce director who made a very big mistake. And big, I mean, it was a billing invoice mistake of about $60,000.
Wow.
Now, he had anticipated that this would end his career. And I watched him walk into my office the next day, completely full of fear and trepidation and pain and agony. And he said to me, am I fired or should I resign? And I said, what for? So he was shocked and amazed that that was my response. And I said, look, you honestly were otherwise occupied. This is not an intentional mistake that you made. And so it's a mistake. And is it costly? And will it affect us all? Yes. Yes, of course will. Is it the end of the world or the end of your career? It isn't. You have been my fierce and loyal lieutenant in this army, and I could not be more grateful. And one mistake will not define you. What defines you is how you react and respond and grow from that mistake. So I believe, again, if you create that type of culture, then you create a culture where you have fearless warriors who are truly doing their best to grow and succeed and continue to help, and they don't feel scared. You know, my mother told me something very important, which is that it was her job to give me roots, but also to give me wings, right?
Yeah.
So I tell my team the same thing. I'm your root, but you must use your wings and fly. And there will never be a ramification if your intention was good.
Great.
Wow,
Yeah.
nice, nice. From an operational jargon or technical perspective, I like what you said, because instead of putting the blame on the person who makes the mistake, what typically happens in that kind of culture that we're building here is more of, you know, instead of focusing on that, let's focus on whatever solutions we can come up with. Let's focus on the layers of protection that we can come up with so that in the future it doesn't happen again.
That's right.
And
And more
that's-
often than, I'm sorry.
No, go.
And more often than not, the learning and the education from the mistake actually helps you to become stronger, right? Because it may have been something that it was a blind spot or you weren't aware of previously that caused the mistake. So I truly believe, and you know, it's Ernest Hemingway who said, the world breaks everyone and we're all stronger in the broken places, right?
Yeah.
It builds back and it grows back, and you experience those things and become better for it. So, and that's really the focus of my leadership style, is very close communication and safety. And I think those two things create a formula for overall team success.
Great. Now, um, obviously the past year and a half, we're all working from our homes mostly, right? So once the situation sort of normalizes, whatever the new normal would be, like, how do you see yourself and your company moving forward? Will you still be going to be working from home, or will it be like a hybrid environment, or?
So I think I can answer that question 100% if I have a crystal ball, but my psychic capabilities are not as good as maybe some others might be. But I would say this, I am one that from the beginning believed that we should do what we have to do, but what is primarily most safe for the teams, right? So our company was one of not that many who has reached out to purchase the vaccine for our employees. Even though we're not the largest company in the country, we still feel that that was a necessary commitment on our part in order to show that we are truly concerned about the health and well-being of our employees. So I'm hoping that rollout will occur in the next few months. So it's my genuine hope that as many employees, and also we've offered some assistance to their dependents as well based on their choices. I'm hoping that as many dependents and employees as can will take advantage of that opportunity, because it's a world-class vaccine, Moderna. We're proud to be offering that, and we really want to take care of our employees. That being said, we will have to see, right, how to sort of transpire, because we will be listening to our employees. Some truly miss, including myself. Genuinely miss the camaraderie of being in the office and saying hello to people and celebrating people's birthdays and talking about things live and just enjoying all of that happens from the social aspect, right? So I think some of our employees have expressed that they deeply miss that as well. Others have found that it's just more convenient for their lifestyle and who they are to be where they're at. So we'll really have to see. It will be mostly dependent on how our clients view the situation and what their sort of preferences are. And some of that really, George, is dependent on security levels and requirements for, lockdown and that sort of thing. So we'll really see how the situation unfolds. I think likely the answer will be more of a hybrid. But personally, I can't wait to get back into my office and see my team and feel like I'm part of a community live and for real as quickly as I can.
Yeah. How did your operations change? How did your management style change during the pandemic? How did you change in terms of recruitment or onboarding new people, and basically just managing on a day-to-day basis?
Right. So I'm an old person. So I've experienced some real tragedies throughout history. So one that I can really relate to this previously, well, a couple. First of all, I went through 9/11 in the United States, and I was a national sales manager at the time with employees throughout the United States and multiple territories, right? So there was a lot of emotion and reaction surrounding that. There were people scared to go to the field and do their field sales jobs and things of that nature. So I went through that experience. I also worked for Samsung, and now this is not equivalent to that, but this is an urgent situation when the S7 had problems. So I ran 5 countries of support during that time. So you can imagine that was literally a tsunami of circumstance that happened to my 2,000 team members at that time. So we had to navigate through all of that. The first thing I would say about leading through a crisis is advice that I got, if you can believe it, when I was training for my entry-level car racing license at Sears Point in Sonoma. So when I went into the class, the instructor said one very important thing. He said, understand that you're driving an actual car. If the car happens to begin to go in a spin and you remove your hands from the wheel, you will crash the car inevitably into the concrete wall. What you must do is maintain control of the steering wheel and steer into the spin so that you can try to correct it as long as you hold on to that car. So I know this sounds like an interesting analogy, but I've always reminded myself, the car, whenever there's a challenge or a big opportunity in front of me, I say to myself, the car is in a spin, hold on to the wheel, right? Remember that. And it's so important for the leader never to panic, right? It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. It doesn't matter if you're panicking on the inside. You simply cannot relay that level of panic and concern on the outside. So for me, I made some very deliberate choices. I'm very clear that many of my fellow expats and others that are in the industry left the country. I will be honest with you and tell you the US Embassy sent us all an alert that said, get on a plane and go home.
Yes.
So what I thought is that's not possible, right? Because one, I will show panic and fear. And two, I've been given this great privilege to lead this large group of people. The car is spinning and I have the responsibility to hold on to the wheel, right? Yeah. So the difference between how I've led in this environment and maybe previously is just simply to remind people consistently, I am there and available. So I've scheduled a great many more one-on-ones that I might necessarily in a usual cadence. I asked a lot of different questions. For example, how are you actually doing? How are you actually feeling? What are the things that are affecting you that I can be of support with or I can be of help with? So I've served, I think, both as leader and in sometimes as counselor.
Yeah.
About various circumstances. And it's been challenging for me. I've been here alone for all of this time. But I don't want to exhibit the impact that it's had on me because I have the responsibility for these people. And, you know, I'm not trying to say that I'm the most humble or the Mother Teresa of the call center world, but I'm saying this gift that has been given to me to be president of this organization and hold responsibility for the 1,000+ people and families that I do is so important to me that I could never abandon ship. So it was first to make the decision to stay on track, stay with everyone, stay in country, which I think a lot of people were pretty surprised by, but let people know I was in country and go through all of the same circumstances that they were, the extreme lockdowns, the fears, the double masking, the face shields, and the list goes on, right? The gallons of alcohol we've all doused bodies with and all of that. So stay with them, number one, and listen to them, number two. And I know that that sounds very simplistic. No. When you're leading teams, you simply have to remember that it's the humanity of it that is so important to that audience and to that group of people. So I'm a little different. If you came to one of my team meetings, you would not find the leadership team or anyone referring to me as ma'am, any formal name. Everyone calls me either Courtney or C. And why? Because I am part of the team. I am not the supreme being, right? So I've also instituted other things. Like, for example, we do a monthly survey to all of my clients' employees as well. And it's called Courtney Cares. And it intentionally is a picture of me with a little heart-shaped logo. I read every single comment and every single feedback that comes back. And oddly enough, there was one, it's a blind survey, but there was one fellow who gave me enough information that I could triangulate distance and position. So I called him on the phone. I picked up my phone and frontline agent, and I said, hi, it's Courtney from iSupport. And I think he thought he was in trouble. He had written on the survey, do you care, Courtney? Do you really care? And so I said, I wanted to call and let you know that the answer to your question is, I do. So let's talk through your situation and let's figure out how to help you. And he was absolutely blown away. He said that in 15 years of him being in the BPO industry, he had never spoken to the president of an organization. Yeah. For me, that's very sad. For me, that is presidents forgetting why they are sitting in that seat, right? Because the seat is a gift and it is only for a short period of time. It is on loan to me. And so I need to respect it, and I need to respect every single person that puts me in this seat. So I think that has really been the strategy during this time, is focus on the people. I had a discussion with my CFO just the other day, and he was asking me, should we spend this? Should we spend that? And I said, spend what we need to spend to make sure that they know they're valued, they're cared about, and they're taken care of. And everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, George, I think you're
Yeah.
mute.
Thank you. I love what you said on taking care of people so that everything takes care of itself. I'm just curious, Courtney, because we've been talking about leadership and how you motivate your people. Let's go a little bit on what exactly is the organization about. What does iSupport do? I know it's a BPO, but is there something unique, a certain service that you have? What's your value proposition? And maybe we can discuss that so people can also know what exactly is this organization about.
Well, thank you so much for that opportunity. I'm so thrilled to be with iSupport because it is the best of everything that I've ever experienced previously. We are not an outsourcing company. We are an offshoring company. So the difference is we provide the infrastructure. So we're HR, finance, facilities, IT, and all the things that you need to do to run an offshore team, but we do not directly manage your staff. We give you that freedom and that opportunity. So we're a very niche provider. So if you come to me and you say you need 4 people and all 4 of them do a different job, fantastic. We will recruit and find exactly those people and hire only those people and give you the freedom and the latitude to manage those people in any way you possibly want. That is so different from so many of the experiences I've had in the past. And, I was very, very limited in the large scale because there's always something called a global operating model, right? So that company then dictates to the clients, well, I realize it's your business, but you have to do it within the confines of my rules, right?
Yeah.
So many of my large scale clients in the past have said, I'm so tired of your global operating model.
Yeah.
I want to run my business the way I want to run it. So at iSupport, we customize the solution for every single client, but we do not leave you alone. So there is a load of experience on my team. Together and combined, we have 150 years of BPO and outsourcing experience. So if you don't know how to create KPIs or proper scorecards for the teams that you want to have here in the Philippines, we'll help you do that. If you don't know how to properly train them or motivate them or support them, we'll show you how to do that too. We'll introduce you to quartile performance management and show you the absolute best practices from Fortune 50 companies that we've supported over the last decade or so. And we'll teach you the secrets to great success. Hugely flexible, our organization and the way that we deal with our clients, and yet value add in that I like to say that I'm the airbag for my clients.
Okay.
Drive the car any way they want to drive it. But if they're going to crash, I'm going to deploy and protect them. So it's really an environment that has been so incredibly successful for both small to medium size and even some huge enterprises that have joined us over the last year. So that's what I like to say that we landed the plane with the wing on fire, but we took off again completely ready because we have had huge growth. We have had nearly 100% growth in the last year, which I understand has been pretty astronomical related to many of my competitors and peers out there. But we've done so because we're really shifting the perspective to take care of the client and their needs. And see, I don't think that's any different than what we've done to take care of our associates, right? Because at the end of the day, the formula is the same. And that's actually one of our corporate values: delight the customer, right? Experience, delight. And when you do, the business takes care of itself.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you grew basically to double the size, no, in the past year. Would you attribute that to an increase in demand for offshoring, or were you just able to get business from your competitors?
No, as a matter of fact, for the clients that we work with, this is the first time they've likely had an offshore team. So we don't work with the traditional outsourcing companies that have done it for years and absolutely know this. So frankly, the path to acquire a new client for my organization is a little bit more difficult. We have to both expose them to this idea and concept that you could have a team that exists and works and is amazing in another country, 9,000 miles away from our West Coast. And then we have to show them that that actually works in practice. So I'll be honest, what I attribute that to is having assembled a team of what I call the 𝐈𝐳 Avengers. They are absolutely the best that exists in the industry. And they've worked every day right alongside me tirelessly to evangelize our company's name, the 𝐈 name.
Yeah.
We're doing what we want to do and how we really want to help people. So when you create that kind of environment, there's a lot of organic growth that comes, right? So we want the clients to look at other positions. They refer us to other clients. We have obviously a very aggressive marketing strategy because we want to tell the world about this amazing opportunity to work with a college-educated, astonishing English-skilled team at a very impressive price, right? That's a benefit anyone in the world. So no, I don't attribute it to any increase in demand. I attribute it to this team and solely to this team that has fought hard for every additional seat that we've added. And I could not be more proud of them.
Great. By the way, where do you usually market your service? Is it in North America, Europe, or Australia?
We're everywhere. So we're in North America, we're in the UK, and we're just now branching into Australia and New Zealand, right? So English-speaking nations primarily, although we can use other languages, as we know that the aptitude is here, but primarily the English-speaking nations. But we've had amazing response and astonishing customer support. So it's been a fantastic year thus far, and I really can't wait to see what happens throughout the rest of the year.
Courtney, I'm curious. What do you think are the emerging opportunities that you're seeing in the offshoring industry? Anything that you're seeing further that might come our way that's going to make it really big, or is there like a particular industry, something probably from your perspective?
I think the thing that's going to make it really big is exactly what my company is doing, and I don't take that comment lightly. You're going to need to customize to what the client actually needs. This is no longer a business where my logo behind me is strong enough that you engage me. You have to provide a solution that the client is actually looking for, and you have to give them enough latitude to be able to run their business the way that they see fit. You have to give them the latitude to create their own culture if they want. I've been known in the past, and I won't say the names of the organizations, but to brand the floors for my former clients. And I've ripped off the logos of the company because it's so important that the offshore team feel like they're part of that organization and they have, a stake in the game of the organization's success. So for me, that's the future, that niche, outshoring, or rather offshoring that will change the perspective of what we do for our folks, right? Is customize the solution. And not many big BPOs do that. Many big BPOs say, here's my 120-page MSA and SOW. And if you don't agree with it, then we're not the right person for you. By the way, if you don't have 50, 100, 200 seats for me, then we're not the right person for you. We don't say that at all. We will take one seat. And, it's funny, I was speaking to a new client the other day, and he said, I realize I don't matter as much as your bigger clients. And I said, well, with all due respect, you'll learn that this is a genuine comment. You matter equally as much. Every single client is equally as important to us. And the contributions we can't undervalue, right? Every seat matters to us. That's how we approach it. And I think that's why our success has come over this last very difficult year, because it is customized, it is focused, and our clients actually matter.
Yeah. Prior to the pandemic, the biggest issue that the BPO industry here have been talking about is automation, AI, and how that would negatively impact the local offshoring and outsourcing industry. What's your opinion regarding that? Do you think it's actually a big threat to your business and to the BPO industry in general?
No, I absolutely don't, and I'll tell you why. I have literally sat side by side many large organizations and some local organizations that aggressively use AI and interaction to support customers. It is incredibly frustrating for the customers because of where it is. At some point, do I think a computer will advance to the level of human connection? I don't think so. And if I'm being entirely transparent with you, since I started in this industry, every time that I took over a program that was struggling, the one common thread was that the piece that was a disconnect was that the execution missed on that human connection. The people on the other side of whether it was a chat, the phone, email, whatever it was, did not genuinely feel like the recipient and the person responsible for handling the conversation understood and truly had empathy, right? When that happens, you have magic. When that happens, you have a support mechanism that is unbeatable. So will AI do some work? Sure. At some point it will tell you, do you have this amount? It does now. It tells you what your bank balance is and what your last transactions were, all that. But when you have a real problem, I still think there will be a humanity piece to it. Even with millennials, they're chatting and they realize when it's a bot, right? Because the bot doesn't actually answer your question. It says something else that may not be entirely related to what you actually typed. And what I think that does is create an enormous level of frustration. And the last thing you want to do when you're trying to build that rapport, which is part of the process, right, to create a solution, is create any frustration or friction. If you do that, you're going to struggle to recover in that situation. So while I don't mean that AI will not make an impact, I do not think that it will replace the skill and the connection of the human being anytime soon.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Now shifting a little bit to the sort of the personal stuff. How has it been as an expat living in the Philippines during this pandemic? Oops.
Well, it's probably been a little rougher on me than maybe most because my husband has been stuck in Iran. So we have been separated for a year and a half-ish at this point. So that's been really, really challenging not to have sort of a personal support system with me throughout this process. But I'm super blessed. I have an astonishing group of friends who are peers, that I've known over the last many, many years, over a decade, and I have an astonishing team. So, maybe I'll have a little down day because I'm human, and I'll get a text message that says, whatever you need, if anything happens, I'm right there and with you. I'm just absolutely blessed. So I know that there are a lot of people, and I just look at the pain and the turmoil that this whole situation has caused. And I see many people that used to work with me on my teams who are unfortunately no longer here as a result of this situation that just is heartbreaking. So I just every day count my blessings and am grateful for the ability to be in a protected environment where I haven't yet experienced, too much damage. So I don't worry about the petty things like, being alone because I have someone to call at any time. And I'm incredibly supported by a network that I could not be more blessed to have. So that's been my experience. It's not a perfect situation, but it's been amazing. And it has been part of my life story. And I wouldn't rewrite it for anything.
Yeah, you know what, Courtney? What also got me is really interested is since you've been here like 14 years, so you obviously when you started your move here in the Philippines, a couple of years back. What's your advice on expats who are first timers, who are trying to make their way here? Obviously, we're seeing, and maybe if all the news is true, the new normal will bring more opportunities in terms of businesses. Things will be more global. there's more demand elsewhere, and people are starting to travel again. So most likely, a lot of people will be expatriated everywhere. I'm seeing Airbnb, in fact, as one of those leaders in that space of providing more longer term places for people to stay. So, what would you say to them? How would you frame it in such a way that when they come over here?
I would say not to have any expectations and to simply enjoy the journey. And beyond that, to really adapt to and embrace a different culture, right? One problem that we have as Americans is we're not as well traveled as maybe some of the other countries that are out there. So, oftentimes I'll see some of my fellow American expats do things that I'm kind of taken aback by, because I think you have to have a reverence and a respect for the culture. I'll share a story. Early on in the pandemic, someone knocked on my door here in my condo in Fort Bonifacio and said the LGU local government unit would like to give you this care pack, right? And I said, wow. I mean, I was absolutely blown away that they even cared or knew that I existed. I didn't take it because I, by the grace of God, didn't need it, and I wanted it to go to someone who did need it. But the fact that they knocked on my door and said, we have something to make sure that you're okay, I feel at home. And so part of that has just been embracing that I'm not in America. I'm in the Philippines. It's a different country. Things are done differently here. Respect that, revere that. Relish every moment that you have the opportunity to learn about a different culture and how things are done. Just the simple things like in the United States, Christmas Day is our big deal. I have enjoyed so many Noche Buena celebrations here in the Philippines, which is incredibly new for me, right? And just loved the opportunity to be exposed to those things. I'm a better person because I haven't stuck to, where I was born and what I learned there, but I've expanded my mind and my belief system to encompass other cultures and what they think and feel, and to honor and respect that, and not believe that mine is the best simply because I'm from a big country that likes to pound on its chest, but believe that mine is just one of the many global, family members that there are in the world. So I'm just honored. Enjoy the experience, open up your mind to the possibility, and start to learn about the culture and really embrace it. Those are the things that I would say to new incoming expats anywhere in the world.
All right. Yeah, George, I think you're.
I think we're imagine it's like 7 o'clock. It's like an hour.
Started talking.
But like, man, I mean, like time never really passed between that time that we started. Courtney, maybe some parting words. What do you want to say to your fans out there? Because obviously, when we're going to be releasing this podcast, a lot of people will be definitely, hey, I want to get to know about Courtney. I want to have her as my leader. But what would you want to say to everyone? And probably also, what do you want to plug in terms of your organization, I Support, so that at least it goes out, the message goes out to everyone that's listening to our podcast.
Well, I super appreciate that opportunity. First, I'm not sure that I have any fans, but I know for sure that I have a lot of extended family. That's one thing I'm absolutely positive of. So what I want to say to them is thank you, and that I'm incredibly grateful that you would give me the gift of your care and your support and your trust. Because those things are absolutely precious. And to potential clients and all the clients that I already have, I am grateful. We understand that your trust and your giving us the opportunity to be part of your organization is a big decision. And I am so grateful as a person, as a member of a team, that these organizations would talk to us and give us the opportunity to run some of their business. It's a big leap, and it's a big leap of faith and trust. But we are here. We are an emerging organization. There's some very exciting news coming out about how great we've been doing that I can't yet announce, but look for it coming on social media here shortly. And we will just continue to do everything that we can to build every business that would like to be part of our organization. But more than that, as a leader, what I want to leave my folks with is that my goal here is not to be as successful as I possibly can for myself. My goal here is to build kings and queens. So they'll be at my memorial saying that I was part of their journey. And when that's your perspective, I think that you surround yourself with exactly those people because they come to you. So I couldn't be more grateful for my team of 𝐈 Avengers and my team of clients that are absolutely astonishing. And I just thank everyone for the journey, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
That's nice. I support the Avengers.
Extremely well said.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to interview you tonight.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen.
Thank
It was
you
a
so
pleasure
much,
to chat.
Courtney. I really
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Take
Jan,
care.
what about you? You have anything to say? To plug anything incoming?
Yeah. So we're Vanguard Screening Solutions. So we are the leading background screening company in the Philippines. For any employment screening needs, just hit us up. Check our website, www.vanguardscreen.com.
Thank you. Super. Hey, Courtney, thank you so much. John, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
really
Courtney.
appreciate your time, guys. I really learned a lot tonight, and I hope we'd be able to amplify this and share this to other groups so that everyone can hear the message and everyone can follow. Okay. Thank you so
guys
much.
so
Happy
much.
Friday. Enjoy
All
the
right,
weekend.
same to you.
Friday.
Take care,
you.
Enjoy
guys.
your weekend.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
bye.